Robert Wilson drove home from work with a smile on his face. The evening sun made his wedding ring shine as he tapped the steering wheel. He had lived in this quiet town for 15 years now, 15 perfect years where everyone saw him as a good man. The large houses on his street all looked the same, big, clean, and safe. Robert turned into his driveway and saw his wife Lisa working in the garden. She waved at him, her blonde hair tied back, dirt on her knees. Their children, Tom and Emily, played catch on the front lawn. They were 10 and 12 now, growing so fast. "Dad's home," Emily called out, running to the car as Robert stepped out. He caught her in a big hug, spinning her around as she laughed. "How was work?" Lisa asked, walking over to kiss him on the cheek. "Good," Robert said. "Busy, but good. The Davis account is finally signed." He didn't tell her about the woman from the accounting department, Diane Miller, who had smiled at him in the break room today. He didn't tell her how he had followed Diane to her car just to learn where she parked. Later that night, after Lisa and the kids were asleep, Robert sat in his home office. Family photos filled the walls. In one, he stood next to the mayor at last year's charity run that Robert had helped organize. In another, he coached Tom's soccer team, all smiling boys with Robert in the middle, a trusted leader. His computer screen glowed in the dark room as he checked his special email account. He had many accounts, many phones, many names. Robert Wilson was just one of them. Before this town, before Lisa, he had been someone else, and before that, someone else again. Robert closed the email and opened his desk drawer. Inside was a small notebook where he wrote down details about women who caught his eye. Diane's name was the newest one. He had written down what she wore, what time she left work, and what kind of car she drove. He thought about the room behind his basement wall. Lisa didn't know it was there. Nobody did. The builder who sold them the house had made it special, just for Robert, for extra cash that didn't show up on any papers. Over the years, Robert had made it better, adding soundproofing, special locks, and a small hidden door that looked like part of the wall. The room had been empty for almost a year now, too long. The urge was getting stronger. Robert closed the notebook and put it away. He looked at a family photo on his desk. Lisa, Tom, and Emily smiling at a beach last summer. He truly loved them. That wasn't a lie. His life with them wasn't fake. It was just one part of who he was. Tomorrow he would bring donuts to the office. He would make sure to offer one to Diane. People remembered kindness. They trusted kind people. At work, everyone saw Robert as a successful banker who worked hard. At church, people saw a family man who never missed a Sunday. At his kids' school, teachers knew him as a father who always helped with homework and volunteered at events. None of them saw the darkness inside him, the careful planning, the secret life, the things he had done in other towns before moving here. Robert went upstairs and slipped into bed next to Lisa. She stirred slightly but didn't wake up. He watched her breathing, peaceful and trusting. 15 years and she had never suspected anything. His friends never noticed anything strange. Even when police had come to the neighborhood asking questions about missing women in the past, they never looked twice at Robert Wilson, the perfect family man. Tomorrow, he would start planning. Diane Miller would never know what was coming. No one would connect her to Robert. No one ever did. He was too careful, too normal, too liked. Robert closed his eyes and fell asleep, dreaming of his hidden room and how soon it wouldn't be empty anymore. 3 weeks passed. Robert watched Diane closely at work. He learned her routines. She always went to the same coffee shop after work on Tuesdays, always parked in the same spot, and always took the quiet back road home when she worked late. Perfect. On Thursday evening, most people had left the office. Robert stayed late, telling Lisa he had to finish a big project. Diane was still at her desk too, typing away with headphones on. Robert walked by her desk twice, noticing she was alone in her section. The third time, he stopped. "Working late again?" he asked with a friendly smile. Diane looked up and took off her headphones. "Yeah, end-of-month reports. You too." "Always something to do," Robert laughed. "Say, I'm heading out to grab coffee. Can I bring you one?" "That would be amazing," Diane said. "Black with 1 sugar. You're a lifesaver." 20 minutes later, Robert returned with 2 coffees. He had added something special to Diane's. She thanked him and drank it while they talked about work, 40 minutes later, she started to feel dizzy. "I don't feel so good," she said, holding her head. "Let me drive you home," Robert offered, concern in his voice. "You shouldn't drive like this." Diane tried to argue but could barely stand up. Robert helped her to his car, telling the night guard they were both leaving, and he was giving her a ride since she felt sick. The guard nodded, thinking what a nice guy Robert was. Instead of taking her home, Robert drove to a quiet rest stop on the highway. Diane was barely conscious now. He left her car at the rest stop, made sure no cameras could see him, and transferred her to his trunk. Then he drove home, parking in his garage and closing the door before taking her to his hidden room. The next morning, Robert ate breakfast with his family like nothing had happened. He kissed Lisa goodbye and drove to work, making sure to look worried when Diane didn't show up. By lunchtime, people at work were concerned. Diane never missed work without calling. Her boss tried her phone multiple times. By afternoon, her parents had been called. They hadn't heard from her either. "Has anyone seen Diane?" the office manager asked during an emergency meeting. "I saw her last night," Robert said, raising his hand. "She was working late when I left around 7. She seemed fine then." The police found Diane's car at the highway rest stop that evening. Her purse was still inside, but there was no sign of her. The news spread quickly through town. A young woman was missing. The next day, Robert was the first to suggest organizing a search party. He printed flyers with Diane's picture and handed them out at work. He called local news stations to get her story out. Everyone admired how much he cared, how he took charge to help find his colleague. Detective James Cooper interviewed everyone at the bank. When he spoke to Robert, he found a concerned co-worker who answered all questions clearly. "Security footage shows you both left within minutes of each other," Cooper said. "Yes, I saw her in the parking lot," Robert lied smoothly. "She seemed fine. I offered to walk her to her car, but she said not to worry." Robert's alibi was solid. Security cameras showed him arriving home at 8:15 p.m., waving to his neighbor who was walking his dog. His phone records showed he called Lisa from his work desk at 7:30 p.m. There was nothing to connect him to Diane's disappearance. At night, after his family was asleep, Robert went to his hidden room. Diane was there, tied up and scared. He had been careful. No one suspected him. No one ever would. As days passed and hope of finding Diane alive faded, Robert was the one who organized a fund for her family. He was the one who brought meals to her parents. He was the one who cried at the community prayer service. "Such a shame," people said. "Robert is taking it so hard. What a good man." A year passed. The town slowly forgot about Diane Miller. Her case went cold. Detective Cooper still looked at the files sometimes, but there were no new leads. Life moved on for everyone except Robert. Robert had kept newspaper articles about Diane's disappearance. He saved them in a special box in his hidden room. The room was empty now. Diane was gone. Robert had taken care of that, like he had done with others before. The urge was coming back. Robert felt it growing stronger each day. He tried to fight it. He spent more time with his family. He coached Tom's baseball team and went to Emily's dance recitals. He took Lisa on date nights and bought her flowers for no reason, but the darkness inside him was hungry again. Carol Thompson came to the bank to discuss a loan for her small business. She was pretty with dark hair and a bright smile. Robert handled her account personally. He was charming and helpful. Carol trusted him right away. She told him she was divorced and lived alone in a small house just outside town. Robert added her name to his notebook. For 2 months, Robert helped Carol with her loan paperwork. They met often, always at the bank during business hours. Carol had no idea that Robert sometimes drove by her house at night, watching her windows from his car with the lights off. She didn't know he had made a copy of her house key when she left her purse unattended during one of their meetings. One night, Robert told Lisa he had to attend a banking conference in the next town. It was a lie. Instead, he parked near Carol's house and waited until her lights went out. At midnight, he used the copied key to enter silently. Carol woke up to a hand over her mouth. She tried to scream but couldn't. She fought hard, scratching Robert's arm deeply, but he was stronger. He used a cloth with chemicals to make her pass out. Then he carried her to his car and drove to a different highway rest stop, far from the one where Diane's car had been found. He left Carol's car there, making sure to wipe it clean of fingerprints. The next morning, Carol Thompson was reported missing when she didn't show up to open her shop. The police found her car at the rest stop. The case looked similar to Diane's disappearance, but there was over a year between them, and the rest stops were in opposite directions. Detective Cooper noticed the pattern though. 2 women from the same town, both disappeared, both cars found at highway rest stops. He began to wonder if the cases were connected. Robert acted shocked when he heard about Carol. First Diane, now Carol? What's happening to our town? He said to co-workers. He offered to help with the search, just like he had for Diane. People thought he was such a caring citizen. This time, when Cooper interviewed everyone who knew Carol, he paid extra attention to connections between the 2 missing women. He discovered that both had dealings with the bank. Both had met with Robert Wilson. Is it a coincidence they both knew you? Cooper asked Robert during their second interview. Robert showed just the right amount of surprise and worry. I work with dozens of clients every week, he explained. Diane was a co-worker, and Carol was a client. I barely knew Carol outside of her loan application. Cooper checked Robert's alibi. Bank records showed he was at a conference when Carol disappeared. Hotel security footage showed a man who looked like Robert checking in that night. Cooper had no reason to suspect him. What Cooper didn't know was that Robert had paid a homeless man who looked similar to him to check into the hotel using his name and credit card. The perfect alibi. At home, Robert's hidden room had a visitor again. Carol stayed there for weeks. Longer than Diane had. Robert was being more careful this time. He had plans for Carol, and he needed to make sure nothing connected back to him. Meanwhile, Detective Cooper put pictures of Diane and Carol on his office wall. He stared at them daily, trying to find the connection he felt was there but couldn't see yet. Something was missing. Someone was hiding in plain sight. But who? 18 months later, the town faced another shock. Michelle Parker, who taught 4th grade at the local elementary school, disappeared. She had taught both of Robert's children years ago. Like the others, her car was found at a highway rest stop, this one 50 miles south of town. Detective Cooper wasn't surprised anymore. He called the FBI. This was the work of a serial killer. Agent Olivia Martinez arrived from the nearest field office, taking over the investigation. She was sharp, with 15 years of experience hunting predators. 3 women in 4 years, Martinez said, looking at the case files in Cooper's office. All from the same town. All vanished without a trace. All cars found at different rest stops. We're dealing with someone who knows what they're doing. Cooper nodded. I've been thinking the same thing. Someone local who knows these women. Robert heard about the FBI coming to town. He knew this was dangerous, but he also felt excited by the challenge. He had never been caught before. He had moved from town to town, always careful, always one step ahead of law enforcement. The mayor formed a community safety committee after Michelle's disappearance. He asked Robert to join, knowing his history of helping with the searches for Diane and Carol. Robert accepted immediately. It was perfect. He would know everything the police knew. At the first meeting, Robert met Agent Martinez. She studied him carefully as he spoke passionately about keeping the town safe. We need better lighting in the parking lots, Robert suggested. Security cameras at key intersections. Maybe even a volunteer patrol group. Martinez was impressed by his ideas. You seem to have thought a lot about this, Mr. Wilson. I have 2 children and a wife I love, Robert replied. And I've lost 2 people I knew to this monster. Of course I've thought about it. At home that night, Robert told Lisa about the meeting. The FBI agent seems smart, he said. I hope they catch whoever is doing this. Lisa hugged him. You're a good man, Robert. The town is lucky to have you helping. The next day, the Wilsons' basement had a serious plumbing problem. Water leaked through the ceiling. Lisa called a plumber named Mike who came highly recommended. I need to check the pipes behind this wall, Mike said, tapping the basement wall. The leak is coming from somewhere back there. Robert was at work. Lisa called to tell him about the plumber. He needs to open up part of the basement wall to find the leak, she said. Robert felt his heart race. Which wall? He asked, trying to sound normal. The one on the north side, near your storage shelves, Lisa replied. Robert couldn't breathe. That was where the hidden door to his secret room was located. Tell him to wait until I get home, he said. I need to move some things first. But Mike had already started working. He removed a section of drywall and found something strange, another wall behind it with a small, disguised door. "Mrs. Wilson," Mike called, "did you know you have some kind of hidden room back here?" Lisa came downstairs, confused. "A hidden room? That can't be right. We've lived here for almost 20 years. Mike showed her the door. It had a special lock that needed a key. "It looks like some kind of panic room or safe room," he said. "Previous owners must have built it." Lisa called Robert again. "Honey, there's a hidden room behind the basement wall. Did you know about this?" Robert closed his eyes, thinking quickly. "Really? That's strange. The previous owners never mentioned it when we bought the house. Is there a way to open it?" "It needs a key," Lisa said. "I'll be home in 30 minutes, Robert said. "Don't try to open it until I get there. It might not be safe." Robert drove home quickly, his mind racing. The room was empty now, thankfully. He had cleaned it completely after Michelle. But there were still things in there that could raise questions: special locks, soundproofing, a drain in the floor. He needed to explain it all somehow. When Robert got home, he found Lisa and Mike still in the basement. Mike had fixed the leaking pipe, but was curious about the room. "Must be a panic room," Robert said, examining the door with fake surprise. "I've heard about these. Rich people build them to hide from burglars. Should we try to open it?" Lisa asked. Robert shook his head. "Let's leave it for now. I'll call a locksmith tomorrow. After what's been happening in town, maybe having a panic room isn't such a bad idea." That night, after Lisa and the children were asleep, Robert quietly went down to the basement. He unlocked the hidden room with a key he kept on a chain around his neck. Inside, he quickly gathered items that might raise questions: special tools, restraints, a small box of trophies he had taken from his victims. He put everything into a duffel bag. The next morning, Robert called a locksmith. The man came to examine the door, with Lisa watching curiously. "Definitely a panic room," the locksmith said. "Seen a few of these. Rich folks build them to hide from burglars or weather emergencies." He made a new key for the door. When the locksmith left, Robert and Lisa opened the room together. It was empty now, with bare walls and a concrete floor. Robert had worked through the night to remove all signs of what had happened there. "What a weird thing to have in a house," Lisa said, looking around the small space. "Why wouldn't the previous owners tell us about it?" "Maybe they forgot," Robert suggested. "It's been 20 years. Or maybe they thought it would scare buyers away." Lisa nodded. "What should we do with it?" "We could turn it into a wine cellar," Robert said. "Or extra storage. Whatever you want." The discovery of the room bothered Agent Martinez when she heard about it from Detective Cooper, who had been told by the plumber's wife, who heard it from Lisa at a school meeting. "The Wilsons found a hidden room in their house?" Martinez asked, her interest piqued. "That's unusual." Cooper shrugged. "Old house, rich previous owners. Apparently it was a panic room." Martinez made a note to look into it. Something about Robert Wilson had caught her attention during the community safety meetings. He seemed too perfect, too helpful, too interested in the investigation. A week later, Martinez and Cooper interviewed Robert for a third time, asking more detailed questions about his connection to Michelle Parker. "She taught my kids years ago," Robert said. "I barely knew her outside of parent-teacher conferences. Can you tell me where you were the night she disappeared?" Martinez asked. Robert smiled. "At home with my family. We had a movie night. Started around 7, finished around 10, then went to bed." "Can anyone else confirm that?" Cooper asked. "My wife and kids, of course," Robert replied. "And I took a picture of us all on the couch that night. I can show you the timestamp." Martinez studied him carefully. "Your name has come up in connection with all 3 missing women. Diane worked with you, Carol was your client, and Michelle taught your children." Robert looked suitably concerned. "I know. It's strange and unsettling, but I live in a small town. I know a lot of people. You could probably connect me to half the town through work, school, or church." Martinez nodded. His explanation made sense. Still, something felt off. That evening, Lisa was cleaning the bedroom when she found an old college yearbook in Robert's closet. She flipped through it, smiling at her husband's younger face. A key fell out from between the pages, old and rusty, not like any key they used in their house. Lisa put the key in her pocket, wondering what it opened. Maybe an old locker or mailbox. She would ask Robert later. When she went downstairs, she heard Robert on the phone in his office, speaking quietly. "I need to be careful," he was saying. "The FBI agent seems fixated on me. No, nothing connects me to them. I've gotten rid of everything, yes. I'll be there tomorrow." Lisa froze. The conversation sounded strange. Who was Robert talking to? What had he gotten rid of? She quietly backed away from the door. For the first time in their marriage, Lisa felt afraid of her husband. Something was wrong. The hidden room, the secret key, the strange phone call, it all felt connected somehow. That night at dinner, Lisa watched Robert with new eyes. He told stories and laughed with the children like always. He kissed her cheek and helped with the dishes. He was still the perfect husband and father on the surface. But now Lisa saw tiny cracks in his mask. The way his eyes sometimes went cold when he thought no one was looking, how tightly he gripped his fork when the news mentioned the missing women. When Robert went to take a shower, Lisa slipped into his office and looked through his desk. In the bottom drawer, she found a small notebook hidden under some files. She opened it and saw names, dates, and details about women, including Diane, Carol, and Michelle. Lisa's hands shook as she put the notebook back. The perfect man she had married, the father of her children, the respected member of the community. Who was he really? Lisa couldn't sleep that night. She lay beside Robert, listening to his steady breathing, wondering if she really knew him at all. The notebook, the hidden room, the strange key, it all pointed to something terrible. Could her husband be connected to the missing women? The thought seemed impossible, yet the fear grew inside her. The next morning, Lisa waited until Robert left for work. She told the children to take the bus to school instead of getting their usual ride from their father. Then she took the rusty key from her pocket and went to the garage. She searched through boxes of Robert's old things until she found one labeled Storage Unit Number 7. Lisa drove to the storage facility across town. She had forgotten Robert even rented a space there. He never mentioned it anymore. At the front desk, she said she was Robert Wilson's wife and had lost her key. The clerk checked her ID and gave her a replacement key. But not before mentioning something odd. "Unit number 7, the clerk said. "That's not under Wilson, it's under the name Adams." Lisa felt cold. There must be a mistake. "My husband is Robert Wilson." The clerk shrugged. "The account was set up 15 years ago under James Adams. Payment comes automatically from a bank account each month." Lisa nodded, hiding her confusion. Robert's middle name was James, but she had never heard the last name Adams before. Why would he use a different name? Unit number 7 was at the back of the facility, away from security cameras. Lisa's hands trembled as she unlocked the door. Inside, the small room was organized neatly with shelves and boxes. On one wall was a corkboard covered with newspaper clippings, all about missing women, dating back 20 years, from several different states. Lisa felt sick as she opened the boxes. One contained women's jewelry, labeled with names and dates. Another held hair samples in small plastic bags. A third box had journals, dozens of them, filled with Robert's handwriting, describing things so horrible that Lisa had to stop reading. In the corner was a locked metal cabinet. Lisa tried the rusty key from the yearbook, and it opened. Inside were driver's licenses, credit cards, and IDs, all belonging to Robert, but with different names. Birth certificates, college diplomas, even marriage certificates from previous marriages she never knew about. Lisa sank to the floor, her world collapsing. Her husband was a monster. A killer. He had hidden his true self from her for 15 years. She thought of her children, of the life they had built, all based on terrible lies. With shaking hands, she took out her phone and called Agent Martinez. "I need to talk to you," she said. "It's about my husband. I've found something." Martinez and Cooper met Lisa at a coffee shop. She told them everything: the hidden room, the notebook, the storage unit, the different name. She gave them the key and the address of the unit. "He keeps trophies," she whispered, her voice breaking, "and journals where he writes about what he did to them." Martinez reached across the table and squeezed Lisa's hand. "You're doing the right thing, Mrs. Wilson. We'll need to move quickly. Does your husband suspect you know?" Lisa shook her head. "I don't think so. He's at work now, but he'll be home by 6. Go home." Act normal. Pack a small bag for yourself and your children, just essentials, nothing that would make him suspicious. We'll send officers to pick you up this afternoon before he gets home." Lisa nodded, tears streaming down her face. "My whole life with him was a lie." "Not your love for your children," Martinez said gently. "That was real." That afternoon, Lisa packed a small bag while the children were still at school. She wrote them a note saying they were going on a surprise trip. When plainclothes officers arrived to take them to a safe house, Lisa took one last look at her home, the family photos on the walls, the children's artwork on the refrigerator, the garden she had planted with Robert. How could so much happiness have been built on such darkness? Across town, Martinez and Cooper arrived at the storage unit with a search warrant. What they found confirmed their worst fears. Robert Wilson, or James Adams, as he had once been known, was the serial killer they had been hunting. The evidence was overwhelming. "Call the field office," Martinez told Cooper. "We need to arrest him now, before he gets home and realizes his wife knows." But when they arrived at the bank with backup, Robert was already gone. A coworker said he had left early, saying he had a family emergency. Martinez's heart raced as she called the officers protecting Lisa and her children. "Is everything okay there?" "Yes, ma'am," the officer replied. "Mrs. Wilson and the children are safe." Martinez relaxed slightly, but only for a moment. Robert Wilson was now the most wanted man in the state, and he was nowhere to be found. The manhunt for Robert Wilson lasted 6 months. His face was on every news channel, his story in every newspaper. The FBI revealed that he was connected to at least 12 murders across 4 states over 20 years. Each time he had changed his name, created a new life, and fooled everyone around him. Lisa and the children were moved to a safe house, then given new identities. The children struggled to understand that their father, who had coached their teams and helped with their homework, was a monster who had hurt many people. Lisa struggled too, wondering how she had lived with such evil and never seen it. Robert had vanished without a trace. He had prepared for this moment, keeping cash, fake IDs, and supplies hidden in places no one knew about. The FBI searched everywhere: his known properties, places connected to his past identities, locations mentioned in his journals. They found nothing. Agent Martinez worked day and night on the case. She interviewed everyone who had known Robert, trying to find any clue to where he might have gone, but the man was a master of deception. He had fooled trained FBI agents, his own wife, and an entire community for 15 years. Disappearing was just another trick for him. "He's watching the news," Martinez told Cooper as they reviewed security footage for the 100th time. "He wants to know what we know. He's probably laughing at us." Cooper nodded. People like him enjoy the game, the challenge of staying one step ahead. Robert was indeed watching. From a small cabin deep in the Oregon woods, he followed the story of his crimes on a battery-powered radio. He had prepared this place years ago, just in case. No electricity, no phone, nothing that could be traced. He had food and supplies to last a year if needed. He spent his days writing in a new journal, recording his thoughts as the world hunted for him. Sometimes he felt sad about losing his family. He had truly loved Lisa and the children in his own way. They had been his shield, his perfect disguise. Without them, he was just another fugitive. 3 months into the manhunt, Robert almost got caught. He had risked a trip into a small town for supplies, wearing a disguise. A store clerk thought she recognized him and called the police. Robert escaped into the woods just before they arrived. After that, he stayed in his cabin, living off what he had stored. As months passed, Robert's mental state deteriorated. Alone in the woods with only his dark thoughts for company, he began to see and hear things that weren't there. The voices of his victims haunted him. He wrote frantically in his journal, his handwriting becoming messy and erratic. One cold morning, Robert heard dogs barking in the distance. He looked out the window and saw nothing, but the barking grew louder. He grabbed his emergency bag and ran outside, into the snow-covered forest. He ran for hours, the imaginary dogs always behind him. Finally, exhausted and half-frozen, he came to a cliff overlooking a river. The barking was so loud now he could barely think. He looked back, expecting to see dogs and FBI agents breaking through the trees. There was nothing there, but still he heard them coming closer. Robert took out a small pistol he had kept hidden. He wouldn't be taken alive. He wouldn't spend the rest of his life in prison, studied like an animal in a zoo. The noises grew louder. Robert pressed the gun to his head and pulled the trigger. 3 hikers found his body 2 days later. They called the police, who called the FBI. Martinez and Cooper flew to Oregon immediately. They identified Robert from his fingerprints. In his pocket was a handwritten note with the locations of all his victims' bodies. He chose his own ending, Martinez said as they watched the medical examiner take the body away, just like he controlled everything else in his life. The case was officially closed. The families of the victims finally had answers and could properly bury their loved ones. Lisa and her children began the long process of rebuilding their lives under new names, in a new town, with therapy and support from victim services. Martinez kept Robert's final journal. In its pages was the full story of a man who had lived multiple lives, fooled countless people, and caused immeasurable pain. The most chilling part wasn't the details of his crimes. It was how ordinary he had seemed to everyone who knew him. The true monsters, Martinez told new FBI recruits years later, don't look like monsters at all. They look like the man next door, the friendly coworker, the perfect husband. They hide in plain sight, wearing a mask so convincing that even those closest to them can't see what lies beneath. The story of Robert Wilson became a case study in FBI training. The man who fooled his family, his friends, and the FBI had left behind one final lesson. Evil often wears the face of normalcy, and the greatest predators are the ones no one suspects.